A Look Beyond Borders, a case study on Amnesty International Poland's Look Beyond Borders campaign by Hannah Marjan. A little background on the campaign. In 2015, Europe was experiencing a refugee crisis because by December of that year, 1 million immigrants and refugees had illegally crossed into Europe. This was 4 times the number of refugees that had entered Europe just the previous year. The huge influx of migrants caused some high political tensions in the EU, with some states rejecting allowing this many illegal refugees into their countries. European leadership and citizens were feeling tension over how to handle the new refugees. So in 2016, the Polish Amnesty International Office decided to launch their Look Beyond Borders campaign in an effort to change the way refugees are perceived by European citizens. With the Polish ad agency DDB and Tribal, Amnesty International Poland sought to increase awareness around the dehumanization and negative perception of refugees. The main challenge facing this campaign was that refugees had become just a number to most European citizens, rather than an actual person. Because Amnesty International and DDB and Tribal did not want the backlash of telling people they needed to help, they decided to go with the approach of changing the way people think about refugees and humanize them. So let's start with the circle of culture surrounding this case. Starting with the identity. The target publics for this campaign were European residents in Albania, Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. The campaign specifically targeted people who already accept the refugees and also people who are undecided on the issue. They calculated that these two groups accounted for 45% of European citizens, which was approximately 334 million people they were targeting. The organizational identity of Amnesty International is as an international non-governmental organization, or an NGO. Amnesty has shifted over the years from a large London headquarters to regional offices all over the world. The new regional offices, like the Polish branch, strengthen the work at the national level and allow for quicker response times to global events. Amnesty's mission is to protect and empower people around the globe, including abolishing the death penalty, protecting sexual and reproductive rights, and defending refugees. So, Amnesty's services include investigating and exposing the facts wherever abuses of human rights are occurring. They also lobby governments and other agencies to protect human rights, tell the stories of people around the world suffering injustices in order to mobilize supporters, and they support the people who can make a change in these areas through education and training. Poland is a part of the European Union, which is the overarching governing body for most European countries. The segments of the other EU members are who the Polish Amnesty Office is trying to reach with this campaign. The countries of the EU have relatively little in common other than geographic, historic, and a few cultural factors. So each member state has their own completely unique national identity. Let's move on to production. Amnesty International Poland and DDB and Tribal produced all of the materials used in the campaign. One of the main aspects of the campaign was their Look Beyond Borders 4-minute experiment, where people from Belgium, Italy, Germany, Poland, and the UK were sat across from refugees from Syria and Somalia for 4 minutes. They created a short film of the encounters that shows the amazing connection these two people who have never met or seen each other experience by the end of the 4 minutes. The videos were put up on Amnesty Poland's YouTube channel and social media channels. Now moving on to consumption and regulation. The nature of this campaign is to make people slightly uncomfortable. Not so uncomfortable that they reject it altogether as an insult to their ideals or values, but enough so that it makes them think about the topic at hand. Therefore, the video is meant to create a slight bit of discomfort at the idea being posed, a refugee and European citizen sitting across from each other in an effort to humanize the refugee. So that's the consumption. The regulation is very minimal because this campaign was released on YouTube and social media, and the EU does not have huge social media regulations. It had an unhindered release and accessibility, at least to European citizens. Moving on to the representation. Refugees are currently thought of with a negative connotation in much of Europe because of the idea that they are invading these countries illegally. Many citizens of the EU immediately think negatively when they hear or see the words refugee or immigrant. This campaign shifts that perception to refugees and immigrants being just people, like every European citizen, people trying to protect their families and people who deserve safety. Now let's move on to the campaign analysis of this case. Starting with the goals. The goals of this campaign were to influence the way Somalian and Syrian refugees are perceived by European society. Also, Amnesty Poland wanted to enable the audience to experience the 4-minute experiment on their own while watching the video to show the audience how little is needed to break the stereotypes surrounding refugees. Their last goal was to prove that the most important thing in this crisis is to see the human beings on the other side that are in need of help. The objectives for this campaign. This campaign had no output objectives as defined by the organizing companies. However, the following are the impact objectives they listed for the campaign. An informational impact objective was to get media attention surrounding the fate of refugees and the dehumanization problem. Their key performance indicator was to generate 10,000 euros in earned media for each €1 invested. A second informational objective was to build mass awareness of the problem of dehumanization of refugees. The KPI was to reach the entire target audience of 334 million people. An attitudinal objective was to engage internet users in the refugee dehumanization problem. And their second attitudinal objective was to draw attention to the refugee dehumanization problem in a way that does not reinforce the division. The KPI for this was to obtain a better campaign reception compared to the total number of positive and neutral attitudes of Europeans accepting refugees. The timetable for this event was May 15, 2016, when the initial video was put up, through August 31st, 2016. The company did no special events or take other actions other than releasing the 4-minute experiment video. Moving on to the theme and key messages. One key message: fear and hostility come from undeserved stereotypes. Another, a moment of confrontation can tear down these stereotypes. And the last, infect Europeans with empathy. So you can really see how their experiment walks through these key messages to the audience. Next are the media channels that the companies used. So, due to limited budget, the only channels they used was the Amnesty International Poland's Facebook page, their YouTube channel, and their Twitter. There was, however, also further information regarding the campaign and the refugee dehumanization problem on the Amnesty International website at the time of the campaign. So let's look at the implementation. Because the campaign had a relatively small media budget of literally 23 euros, which is what was left over after everything else had been taken care of, the execution was based on getting viral media attention from the video. All 23 euros were used to promote the very first campaign post on Amnesty International Poland's Facebook to start the campaign. However, after that, everything was organic. Here's a little evaluation of this campaign. The campaign did reach its objectives because of the widespread traditional and social media attention it garnered despite its small budget. The campaign was mentioned by top media globally, including 727 publications in 25 countries in just Europe. The total reach of the video was 481.8 million European viewers and 930 million global viewers. The valuation of the mentions in all forms of media, including TV, radio, press, internet, and social media, was almost 950,000 euros. So, Amnesty International Poland and DDB and Tribal were able to create an extremely successful and impactful social awareness campaign surrounding the 2015 European refugee crisis, in despite of their small budget, by finding a way to appeal to people's emotions without making them feel bad or scared of change. One of the main lessons from this campaign is that stereotypes can be broken down and dehumanization can be combated by simple human contact. Also, the best way to enact social change is not by pushing people, but by demonstrating an alternative to their current position. That is what Amnesty Poland did with this experiment. They simply showed a way to get out of those feelings many in Europe had, but they did not say those feelings were wrong or put people down for having them. There is nothing I would have changed about this campaign. I only wish they had a larger budget because I'm sure this campaign would be impactful worldwide, not just in Europe. Thank you so much. And that has been an analysis of Amnesty International Poland's 2016 Look Beyond Borders campaign.